Hi guys, it's 𝕄𝕪𝕤𝕥𝕖𝕣𝕚𝕚𝕠𝕦𝕤𝕐. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to lean and use it effectively in Battlefield 1. I will guide you through the important rules and steps to master it. Please remember that learning this skill takes time. You cannot master it overnight. So have fun learning and let's get into the video. To lean, you'll need to approach a corner. It can be anything like a wall, door frame, window frame, anything that has a corner or an edge. After you approach a corner, you'll see your character tilting their weapon, which is a clear indicator that you can lean. Once this happens, simply aim down sights and you'll be in the leaning stance. Now you're leaning. This is easy to understand, there's nothing else to follow. This also works on trees, even if they don't have a corner, as long as there is cover to reduce the chances of getting hit. Now, despite leaning being a useful mechanic to survive in gunfights, there are important rules you should know. Rule 1 is that, unlike in Rainbow Six Siege, you cannot lean manually. This means you cannot lean at any time by pressing a key. You need to be near a corner in order to lean. You cannot lean on a non-existent corner and edge out. Rule 2 is that you cannot lean while proning. You must at least be in a crouching or standing stance in order to lean. Proning doesn't give you that. Rule 3 is that you shouldn't move or try to strafe while leaning. Sure, you can move a little to the side, but if you go too far, your character will stop leaning. You must stand still in order to stay in the leaning stance. Rule 4 is that you shouldn't look in the opposite direction of your lean. For example, if you're leaning to the left, don't look to the right. If you're leaning to the right, don't look to the left, because doing so will cancel your leaning stance. Make sure you only look in the direction you're aiming. Rule 5 is that you cannot lean instantly by aiming before approaching a corner. You must reach the corner first and then aim to lean, not the other way around. Okay, since you know all of the rules of leaning, I'm going to offer you 4 tips of how to use leaning effectively. I'm also going to show you full of visual examples to make it easy to understand and apply it in a match. So let's start with the first tip. The first tip is that you should always lean from the right side in most situations. This is because your character is naturally right-handed, and if you attempt to lean from the left side, your character will have to twist and expose more of their body in order to lean left, which increases the chance of getting hit and can get you killed in a gunfight. Leaning to the right is recommended since you're only exposing your head and shoulder compared to the left. This will make you hard to kill and increase the chances of survival. Here's a visual example of how exposed your body is from both leaning directions. But remember, it doesn't make you invincible, just only hard to kill. However, you should also know that leaning to the left doesn't mean it's bad. It can be pretty useful in some situations for 3 reasons, such as if your teammate has already occupied the right side to lean, if the right side corner or wall has been destroyed, or if you're crouching while leaning to the left. Leaning to the left can be useful, especially if you're crouch leaning, since you don't expose much of your body compared to standing, but it still isn't as good as the right side. So in most situations, if you really want to win gunfights, the best approach is to always lean from the right side. The second tip is that you should crouch lean, especially on the right side if you're fighting enemies at long distances. This is because when you crouch, you're making yourself smaller and you're barely noticeable in the distance. This will make enemies have a hard time aiming at you or try to shoot at you, which makes you a harder opponent to deal with. It's important to remember that it only works on 3 enemies. Attempting to do it on a large army will not work since a large group of enemies mean covering all angles. Here's a visual example. This is how many angles 3 players cover. And this is how many angles, say, 5 players cover. Yeah, big difference, right? Even if you did technically defeat more than 3 players, that doesn't mean it will always work. However, there are 2 exceptions where you could do it on more than 3 enemies, such as if a large group of enemies are distracted by your team, or if a large group of enemies are unaware of your presence. If these exceptions are met, you can use crouch leaning on a large army. But if you get spotted, stop immediately and change tactics like flanking, call for backup, or gather information. This will increase the chances of survival and success for your team. The third tip is to always lean around corners when checking rooms. For example, in this situation, most players will run up and expose themselves while checking angles. This is a bad idea as it leaves you vulnerable to enemy fire, which can lead to death, something you definitely want to avoid. The best approach is to slowly approach the corner like this metal door frame I'm showing, and then lean. This way you can check angles while exposing less of your body, which will increase the chances of survival. This is best used on Amiens and Fort Davox, which are filled with tight corners and close quarters combat. However, if you're pushing with teammates, using this tactic is unnecessary and ineffective since you have backup. Only use it when pushing alone. Now, in the fourth tip, I'm going to show you 2 ways to trick snipers and make them hard to headshot you. When dealing against snipers, you can either try to dodge it or crouch bounce. Here's how to do it. To dodge, simply lean and wait for the enemy sniper to aim at you. As soon as they're ready to shoot, duck down and the bullet will fly over your head. You can even do this while crouch leaning. Wait for them to aim at you, and when they're about to shoot, stand up and they will miss. Here's a clip of how I do it when I fought against snipers. As you can see, I'm waiting for them to aim at me, and when they were about to shoot, I crouched and they miss. However, it does have a drawback. It can be unpredictable. What I mean is that sometimes the enemy sniper won't aim for your head, but rather your torso. For example, if they're aiming at your chest and you crouch down thinking they will headshot you, you might give them a free headshot, which can lead to your death. So only use it if you're confident that they will try to headshot you. Now, the second way to trick snipers is to crouch bounce. It's where you spam the crouch button repeatedly that makes you bob up and down. This will confuse your opponent and have a hard time trying to track your head, which can increase the chance of survival and win gunfights. However, it also has a drawback. It's that experienced players may anticipate your crouch bounce patterns and pre-fire or throw explosives, which can be a problem. So if you're going to use it, make sure you're confident that the enemy will be caught off guard. However, most of the time, it's best used against low or medium skilled players. Now that you've learned all of the learning tips and tricks, let's go over the mistakes you should avoid. Don't worry, it will also be filled with visual examples, so let's get started. So the first mistake is that you shouldn't crouch lean against a proning opponent, especially if they're using a bipod. This is because their line of sight is lower than standing players. When you crouch, you lower your head directly into the path of their bullets, making it far easier for them to land a headshot. I'm going to show you a clip of how I handle proning users. As you can see, this player began popping out of cover while staying low and then started shooting at me. But if you look closely, their shots are indeed aimed lower. If I had crouched leaned in that situation, they would have successfully killed me. But I played smart by not crouch leaning and instead stood up while leaning. This denied them a free headshot and I won the fight. Then this random enemy came up and tried to kill me with their AT rocket, but luckily they missed and I survived on a 2v1. So if you encounter a player proning in front of you, don't crouch lean. Stay standing and shoot instead. Second mistake, don't peek around corners if an army of enemies has surrounded you. While it can be useful for staying alive, it's ineffective against a group that already has you surrounded. While you peek, an enemy might sneak up behind you and kill you while you're distracted. So unless you have perfect hearing, it's highly recommended to use this tactic in 1v1 or 2v1 situations. Facing a whole army can be stressful. Third mistake, don't crouch lean if an enemy is very close. While crouch leaning does make you smaller and harder to hit, it doesn't work well against nearby enemies because your hitbox appears larger from their point of view. Even if you try to stop peeking, crouching slows down your movement, which can be a problem in fast-paced situations. If you really want to use it to trick your enemies, they should be at least 10 meters away. This way, you'll remain hard to hit while staying alive. Now, the fourth and final mistake is that you shouldn't try to strafe while leaning. Remember rule 3, which states that you cannot strafe while leaning because it cancels your lean? That's right, moving cancels your leaning, so strafing while leaning is a bad idea. Even if you somehow manage to keep leaning while moving, it really makes a difference. Sure, it might shift your character by a few pixels, but the change is so small that it won't help you dodge bullets. Leaning is meant to reduce your exposure, not to make you invincible. That's its entire purpose in gunfights. Not only that, moving while leaning also decreases your accuracy, which can make things worse. So unless you want to make yourself an easy target, it's better to stay still instead of trying to make yourself trickier in a way that doesn't actually work. Anyways, that's the entire guide for this video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like the video, and if you enjoy my content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you don't want to, that's completely fine. You can continue your day, watch other creators, or just relax in general. Have a good day, evening, or night, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!